Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for this video today. Now, this is part 2 of a fantastic conversation that I had recently with Bethany Nauert, Amy Bartlam, and Marisa Vitale, who are all amazing interior photographers in the LA area. If you didn't watch part 1 of this conversation, I highly recommend that you do. So I'm going to put a link here for you right now if you want to click and go to part 1 of this recorded conversation. If you already watched it, then I'm not going to give much more of an intro. I'm going to let you go ahead and finish watching the rest of the conversation. Enjoy this. I hope you're getting a lot of juicy information from it. And again, if you like this video and this channel, please click like and subscribe. If you want to get weekly updates from the Grove Studio, please consider signing up for the newsletter. And if you have any further questions that you want answered in the future in any way, please send them my way. You can comment here on the video, you can DM me, you can email me. There's a contact on the Grove Studios page. I'm available for you. So enjoy part 2 of this fantastic conversation about the business of interior photography.
So before we move on, people had questions about like gear and stuff. But before that, I know Bethany,
invest
you
in a
work.
good lens, invest in a light. I said invest in a good lens, invest in a light. Don't be afraid of strobe lights, right, Marissa?
Wait. But I wanted to talk about working with an agency, because I know Bethany, you have a rep. You work through an agency.
Yes.
Amy and Marissa, do you guys work through an agency as well, or no?
No.
Have you
all
ever?
Newbie. No.
So Bethany, this is all you. I know that there were some questions about working through an agency. Like, how did that start? Because you worked with a few, right?
I've had 2 agents in the past who just ironically just for various reasons closed their shop. They both had come, the first one, he had come from like a whole background in advertising and marketing. And then he decided to start representing photographers, and he had his own shop for like 2 years and just transitioned into having an interest in running a business, doing something else. And then another one, she had come from a big agency, and she ended up closing shop. I think things just got busy. You know, she had her first child, and I think she was just, you know, maybe didn't have enough time to give to her artist. I'm not really sure what happened, but you know, she decided to take a break. And so I'd gone a couple years without having any representation, and I just felt like over the last couple years especially, I was building enough momentum and enough credibility on my website that I was able to come after one again. So my agency is Big Leo Productions, and it's so funny because I think I had emailed those agents like probably like 3 or 4 times over the last like 12 years, you know? So it really does pay off to just, you know, if you're really interested in an agency. I was very interested in them specifically because of the type of work that they represent, you know, and every once in a while I'd be like, hey, my name's Bethany, you know, here's my portfolio, here's what I've worked with. And I think, you know, now having some credible work in there probably got their attention more than before, which, you know, feels so weird because I got an agency and it's like the world shut down, but but they've been, I mean, all that to say, they've kept me really busy this last quarter. So, but it is really different. It's different to, you know, especially being in charge of like doing everything yourself, to kind of hand a majority of that over to somebody else. But it's also, it's a relief too. So
sounds awesome.
I know. It sounds like a
yeah. But it's hard because it was like, you are, for me at least, like I was used to taking all the inquiries myself, deciding on what I wanted to price them at, deciding on, do I want to say yes or no, deciding if it's worth my time. Maybe the agency, you know, wants to price higher than I would normally price, and, you know, just kind of submitting to all that and being like, okay, they know what they're doing. Like the reason why I wanted representation is because I wanted to get to a more commercial level and, you know, to work in advertising. And not that I don't want to work with, you know, smaller designers anymore. I mean, I do. I just wanted to open up the range a little bit more. And you kind of have to surrender to letting somebody else represent your work, you know, which is, it's an adjustment, but I think if you're open to it, you know, it's a good thing. It's really good. It's nice to have people advocate for you in business.
So what all do they handle? So you get an inquiry from somebody, like somebody reaches out to you, and then you just hand it off to them?
Yeah, it's literally, it's like thank you so much for taking the time to fill out the questionnaire on my email. I'm enclosing my agency rep. Her name's Kimberly, and if you have any more questions, please feel free to let me know. She's going to discuss, licensing terms, or she's going to discuss rates or usage or whatever it is that they're inquiring about. So
that sounds dreamy.
Yeah, it's nice because then, a lot of those times, I mean, I've definitely been in situations where I've had to like charge extra at the end of a shoot, or a client's asking for a lot more than I originally anticipated. And it's hard to like have those conversations where you're like, I need to ask you for more money now,
Yeah.
when maybe that's not what the original contract implied or whatever, and it is nice to like have an advocate and somebody who can have this tough conversation. So really you can just focus on your work,
And then how do they, so I know like next to nothing about working with an agency too. So do they charge like a monthly fee? Is it a commission type of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, every agency, I've heard various agencies do it very differently. Some of them, they only take a commission of what they earn for you. So only out of the jobs that you're bringing to them for them to represent you for. And then other agencies, like you're all in. So they represent you 100% and they take a cut like of everything that you make, but they're also dealing with everything that you're doing. So it's like, I don't know, I think again, that goes over depending on like how much control you want over your client base and over the work. That may not be in your favor. Maybe it's like, but yeah, with my agency specifically, like they're hands-on for everything, which is awesome, So I think there's a common misconception that if you get an agency, you're never going to have to work again, and you're not going to have to self-promote, and you're not going to have to market yourself. And that's BS. You still have to like go out there and get work. You still have to like, do the legwork and meet people and promote yourself and, keep up with your social media, keep up with your website. You still have to maintain things, even though they're there to advocate for you. And they, the benefit of having an agency is that depending on what your goals are for your career and where you want to go with your photos and what kind of clients you want in the future. I think that having an agency is great because they may have like a wider scope of contacts and people to connect you, to these different jobs. So it just depends. I think it really just depends on like what you want your client base. I mean, I think generally like it's mostly like if you want more commercial.
I was just going to ask if it's more for like going in the direction of commercial and advertising product type stuff.
Yeah. Because they're the ones that are going to be the people, they're going to be the glue that puts you together with like the marketing firms and the advertising firms and the art directors and the art buyers and yeah.
So how'd you find this agency? Was it just Googling?
Yeah, well, I had they have been on my like kind of like in my radar for a long time now, and so I had every couple of years when I was like reaching out and trying to look for a new agency, I would write them. And so I don't know where I heard about them initially. Maybe it just a search. Like sometimes I'll just randomly Google like photo agent Los Angeles or photo agent specifically in advertising or
Yeah.
Also, I like think that that's where the importance of Instagram and social media is too, is like if you really are kind of keeping on the pulse of where things are and paying attention, the right people will be tagging everyone accordingly. And then you'll be like, oh, they worked with that producer. And then you can track down that producer and then you find out what that producer's worked on. And, oh, they worked with this photographer. Oh, well, that photographer shot this ad campaign. Okay, well, who did that ad campaign? Then you'll like find out the marketing firm behind it. And then there's all the people involved,
Yeah. And you just email them. You just like totally fangirl them and you're like, I like you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I think that was like my initial email to them this year right before I signed with them was like, I've been a fan of your agents for a really, really long time, and I love the work that they're producing, and so.
Yeah.
So Bethany,
I've got a question.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was just wondering I've often wondered if it's worth having an agent to represent your work in terms of licensing. So just having somebody to handle all those third-party usages, because it would just
It
be so
is.
good to not have to deal with that. Like I don't know.
No,
about
it
yourself.
is 100%. It is.
Yeah, because then you can, if you get an inquiry about that, you can just hand it off to somebody.
Well, let me ask you this. It's like
Pay someone commission for that.
you'll do a shoot, right? And you thinking, okay, your client has paid for your time. They've paid for 20 images. You know, they paid you well. And then you may think, oh, okay, well, yeah, now they can just do whatever they want with these images, or they believe they can do whatever they want. Well, maybe they're submitting it to be on the cover of a magazine, and you may not know any better to ask for money from the magazine directly to license those photos from you.
For me, it's more things like the biggest source of that sort of stuff for me is like the tile people or the drapery people, or those are the people that kind of I license a lot of stuff to, and it would be nice to just be able to send them to an agent to deal with.
Absolutely. And the agency will do that. They'll talk to, they will iron that all out.
Just I think just any kind of level of legitimacy like that as well just really benefits you.
Mm-hmm. But see, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is that your client needs to know that they're supposed to come to you.
Yeah.
They should know that if such and such designer that was involved in their project comes to them and says, oh, I saw those images, can we use them? That they say, oh, those actually, you need to go through Amy and ask her.
Yeah.
I feel like
and it's
clients ask like the real details about all the licensing stuff. I'm like, just if anyone contacts you, just send them to me.
Yeah,
that's what I always say.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I've been doing a fair amount this year of starting to reach out to the companies directly before any kind of usage, and just offering them to license the photos. And a lot of the companies want photos, they need photos, and it's cheaper for them to license photos individually at a higher per photo rate than to just put on a photo shoot. Like it's way cheaper and easier. So that's actually been a good kind of added thing this year.
That's a great idea.
That's smart.
Yeah, I've been learning a lot about that. Bethany, Adam Taylor, he's been talking a lot about licensing your photos out to different third parties, and that's kind of become his thing. And he's like the master of it. Like he's got it down to a whole system. But it's been really great to kind of learn about that, and that's been kind of nice because it almost sort of catches the usage before it happens.
Totally. I know other photographers that have made a whole entire separate living of just syndicating their images, their old library. Like maybe they'll get hired to do one shoot, and they'll have that certain amount, like say 10 images were agreed upon this thing. So they'll license those 10 out to their specific client, but on the side, they've shot all this B-roll of other stuff that they could technically license.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I actually had a company recently reach out to my agency, and they're like, we're not able to do a whole shoot this year because of COVID, but we want to possibly license these 10 images of Bethany's work and then put our artwork into the frames, or photos of our artwork framed, and we'll Photoshop it on. So
I've actually had a couple of artists over the last couple of months actually reach out and ask me if I sell any images for inserting artwork into a space. And I think there's like one or two people out there who are actually selling like packages of one point perspective shots of interiors, so that artists can put into frames like their photos or their artwork. And they were like, you need to do this because there's not a whole lot of options out there. I'm like, that's brilliant. I should totally do that.
There's not a lot of stock in that. But do you think, like, is there ever an edge with that where you would need to get clearance from your designer in terms of adjusting the design? Because, like, I think there's an argument for them potentially being mad if it's like a
polite thing to do would to ask them at least.
Yeah. Because I've had I think I've had two like fine art photographers reach out, and I've sold prints to, and I've always checked with the designer first just in case, because I can imagine that could, even though we are entitled to do that, I think it's important to protect that relationship.
I think if I were going to make any that were going to be for artists to just paste in their work, I would probably do a photo shoot specifically for that.
Yeah.
Like rent out a studio space or rent out a property and specifically shoot for that. rather than
that's
you
really
get,
smart. It's a great idea.
yeah,
And
rather
another
than designer.
back to about having an agent too. They're gonna know like all the ins and outs of like how to get that kind of production done, or like how to license according for that. And,
Yeah.
so to answer
Yeah.
that original question far back, it does benefit having an agency to handle the licensing, because I think you can run an entire business just on syndication alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
probably.
mean, all the images that we all have just sitting, like doing nothing, just
Yeah.
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I know we're sitting on a lot of money, ladies.
Oh,
So before we have to end the conversation, let's talk about gear. There were a couple of people that asked about any tips for shooting into windows, and then there was a general like, what's your gear go-to recommendation thing. So what would you guys say for shooting into like a bright window?
Photoshop. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Don't expect to take one photo and that be it. You're gonna have to take several, I think, is my takeaway with that, which is probably the biggest thing that I learned when I started shooting interiors, coming from a background of other genres of photography. It was like, oh, you need to take more than one for one frame.
I think
that's the biggest
plating, you
takeaway for
shoot
me.
different exposures so you can plate the window in, but also I really can't stress this enough. I think there's a common thread of interior designers that see these like light and bright images and they think that everything is just naturally lit, when a lot of times there's a flash involved. A lot of times it's like Photoshop that's just making everything a lot brighter. And I think it's important, don't be afraid to try to light things, and then I know that a lot of cameras are like doing HDR mode, so I don't really. Marissa was trying to teach us about that. I didn't really.
in camera. I don't know that one. I just know.
Oh, the in-camera one. Yeah, the Photoshop one.
Yeah, like Photoshop. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Lightroom one is where we were at, wasn't it? I think, like you said, that's way better than the one in camera. The one in camera just creates a JPEG, which is not so great. But I mean, I think you're Canon, right? Yeah, you are, Marissa. But Bethany, you're not.
Well, I was. Okay, so this last year I went to Nikon, and then I actually ended up buying another Canon because Nikon was having all these issues.
Oh no.
I know.
Welcome back.
So now I have two, and now I have like 4 cameras. Like I should probably like sell the Nikon, but whatever.
You should. But I mean, in the Canon you have the HDR mode, which the resulting JPEG is no good generally, but you can use it to bracket, with one click. So, when you're pressed for time, and it saves you. Yeah, so it'll do 3 exposures for you. One will be for the highlights, one will be for the shadows, and one will be the one that you chose. Then you kind of have that without having to go through the
I think
process.
I tested it once, and I shot like right into a window, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Like,
I'd always rather have full control myself. Like,
I don't trust all the auto bracketing or the auto blending or all that. I do everything manually.
So do I. I shoot everything in manual.
Yeah, and plus like the bracketing, like I like to just shift the shutter speed myself and do my manual brackets depending on what I feel I need. And then the blending, like I just don't trust the automated blending. I'm like, no, gotta hand brush it.
They always end up grainy as well, I find, there's always some kind of compromise on quality with any of those auto things, but
they tend to feel flat for me. It just kind of flattens everything.
Muddy, right?
Yeah.
Which is like not what's supposed to happen. Like the whole point of HDR is to make everything like punchy and bright, and Yeah. But are you guys are all tethering, right? Like you're all
Yeah.
And
that's my big tip is tethering for sure.
Yeah,
like if you're starting in interiors, just you just can't do it just looking at the back of your screen, I don't think.
I did that for so long, and I can't even believe I did it for that long.
Never go back.
Once you shoot with a computer, you can never ever not shoot with it again.
Never. I think my eyes have adjusted. I don't think.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the same thing with a tripod too. It's like the minute I really learned how to like shoot on a tripod versus like not, because I used to handhold everything.
Totally.
Like, what was I doing?
Yeah.
I know. Exactly.
Do you guys tether to a computer or to a tablet? Is it with a cable or wireless?
I have a
Both.
lot.
Both?
I'm just to a laptop with a cable. Yeah.
I love tethering wirelessly to my iPad. I love it. Like, I don't know that
Yeah.
I could get, I don't know that I could get you. Well, I like to hold the tablet and I do the last minute shushing. And now with COVID, I have a second tablet that that it shares with, the Cam Ranger
That's
share.
smart.
And I hand that one to my client, and that's their iPad for the shoot.
So
And
you shoot with Cam Ranger and then you shoot through the EOS.
it's just through the Cam Ranger app.
Oh, nice.
So it's Cam Ranger. Sorry, my dog is having a field day on my bed and bumping the camera or the computer. I shoot with the Cam Ranger, and then that goes to the Cam Ranger app on the tablet. And then on the second tablet, you can use Cam Ranger Share, which basically just relays what the original Cam Ranger app sees. It relays it to another tablet.
But where's it saving the images? Is it saving to a card on your camera, or is it saving them to?
It's just saving it on
I
my
see.
camera to the memory card. Yeah. So then that way.
I have
It's
another
an
friend.
external view.
I have another friend that uses Cam Ranger, but he's got it so he shoots through Cam Ranger, and somehow it shoots JPEGs to Lightroom, I think it is, and then the RAWs to a card on his camera. But
That makes
now,
sense.
That must be what. Yeah.
but now Lightroom has live view. So why do you need Cam Ranger unless you want to just be completely wireless? He does it all wireless. He doesn't use a cord at all. But he says he uses Cam Ranger and it shoots JPEGs to the Lightroom. So he's got that for his clients to be able to see, and then the raw files go right to a card. But maybe
I'm on a 5D Mark III, so I don't have the built-in Wi-Fi either. I know the Mark IV has the Wi-Fi built in, and so you don't actually even need the Cam Ranger.
Yeah. So with that on the Mark IV, can you Wi-Fi to anything, like to a tablet, a laptop?
I think so, but you just have to have the EOS something
app
downloaded on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Bethany, came back to Canon. Which one do you have?
the 5DSR.
Oh. Do you like it?
Yeah, so far. I mean, I haven't used it that much. I bought it like it was like a month-long Black Friday sale on B&H. And at the time, like my Nikon, which I have the oh my god, I'm totally drawing a blank. The 50 megapixel full frame Nikon, the D850, is that the one? That was sitting at Nikon in repair for like 2 months.
Ooh.
And I was about to do this ad job, and I was like, I need a full frame camera. You know, like, I mean, I could have rented one, but I'm like, I need a full frame camera, right? So I ended up, my boyfriend's like, let's get you this Canon. It's on sale. Like, so I ended up buying, I actually bought two because it was like one was half the price. So I got two cameras for the price of one.
Well, I was going to ask, do you guys have backups? Do you have like a backup camera you take with you?
I do.
Always.
Backup camera, backup lens, just in case.
Yeah.
Never had to use it.
Never had to use it, but can't bear the thought of having to use it. So
Yeah. It really comes in handy.
yeah, just for peace of mind, because things go wrong, guys.
Yeah, that's true. So what we kind of touched on it. What's your go-to gear? It sounds like we're all Canon.
Yeah.
What kind of gear do you guys have? Like lenses? What kind of light?
I do a 17 to 40 mil zoom lens for most things. And I do that because it gives the most coverage, and I like to not have to change lenses too much because of the good old dust on your sensor issue that you get with shooting up to f22 or whatever. So that's my reasoning behind that. And I have a Manfrotto tripod and my laptop and a lovely light that Bethany actually recommended, which is a God.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I love it.
Did you get the 8600?
Great question.
I'm like,
Marissa, that's the one you got too, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you sent us, it's great. It's
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the AD 200, and that was like my step up from a speed light. So I think
That's the one that's like a brick, right?
yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
like a
Oh,
speed
okay.
light, but like a little clunkier, but it's not much bigger.
Yeah.
But the AD 600, that's bigger. That's much bigger, right?
Yeah, it's
Big.
yeah, it's like its own monolight. It has its battery.
Yeah.
And then
It's
it
great.
has
The battery lasts forever.
forever.
See,
And
I
it's
don't
so
know though.
light, and just like throw it up, like.
I love to hand hold my light and bounce it around.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
don't know that
sometimes it depends on the situation. You can't do that. So, it's nice to be able to like, yeah, you like the
Yeah.
mobility of like having
I
something
love
small.
it.
I always just stick mine on a stand, so I don't
Yeah.
think about it. But
I
I'm not
always have one
patient
of those
enough.
with me as well, just in case, like a speed light, just because you never know when you're going to be in a powder room or something, or I don't know.
sometimes that's all you
it's
need
just a
too.
tiny- yeah.
Yeah. Well, I liked the AD 200. It's so much stronger than the speed light, but it's not as strong as the 600. They just came out with a 300, I think,
Oh, wow.
recently.
Oh.
That's what I heard. I think it's pretty recent that they came out with it. I hope I'm right. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Marissa, what do you use?
I use that whatever Bethany said to go to. For everything. Sorry.
Yeah.
I use a 16-35 lens, or before that, I really shot for like 2 years straight with the tilt shift 24.
Oh, you're not using that one anymore?
Not really. I'm lazy. I think I just there's something on there. I'm just like, oh, this one's great. I'll just figure this one out. I'll make it work with this one. But I used to shoot with 24-70 because that's just I shot everything with that.
That's
people.
a great lens, though.
Yeah,
it works for everything.
Totally.
It's heavy as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so used to it. But then when I shifted to the 24 tilt shift, it just I just didn't have to fix the edges as much. The tilt shift was just so straight, and so I loved that. But then I was stuck in that wide frame all the time, so now I'm into the 16-35 because I can like move it around a little bit more.
Yeah.
But then I think this goes back to just shooting people. I also have a 50, and I will kind of what I do is I go in a room, I shoot all the wides, I do all of that, and then I go handheld with my 50 and then do all the little details.
That's pretty much the exact same thing I do. I have a 16-35, and I've toyed with a tilt shift, but I just can't bring myself. Like, it's so specific to certain needs, and it's so slow to set up and everything. And I like having a zoom. I like having that flexibility.
What I absolutely love about the tilt shift is that, because I feel like there's so many times where you get in trouble where you're like, I just need to be like a little bit higher, or I just need to like get over here, but there's this wall in the way, and so the tilt shift, like, you literally just like move the whole thing, and it just like it moves the whole camera, and it's amazing. And so it's something that you can't do, like you literally can't physically do it with like any other lens. So I will throw it on there if I get in those weird situations, especially like in a bathroom where there's a mirror right in front of you.
Oh my God. So
you can be under it and like do the tilt shift so the thing goes up. You can't see the camera in the mirror.
Nice.
But I don't know how it works. But
or how many times have you like where you're like standing in a bathroom door and you're like trying to get that straight on like beautiful console shot with like the mirror and the blah blah blah, and like literally, but you can't get to the center of it because the wall's there.
Yes. Exactly.
Or you're like, oh, my lens literally needs to just be right where this door frame is, and I can't. And that's when the tilt shift, I think, comes in very handy. I don't have it, but I want to get one.
Yeah.
You don't use it anymore? Well, I'll just borrow yours then.
Yeah. And I'm like, dang it, I just have to like, and I'm doing it, and then I'm like, after the fact, I'm like, I have the tilt shift in my bag. Like, what the heck?
Okay, so we've gone a little bit over, but that's totally fine. What was the other thing I wanted to ask you guys about? Oh, so let's kind of close it up. One person asked, I thought it was a really cute question. If there's one or two things that you could tell your newbie self from like the very beginning, what would it be?
Don't work for free.
Yeah.
Don't undervalue yourself.
Put your rates up.
So much for free. so many
Yeah.
shoots.
So
Yeah.
true. Even if you have to charge a little bit, charge something.
Don't
Yes.
work for free.
Anything.
Yeah.
Always
even
charge
as,
something.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like over the last couple of years, I've even had people like, quote unquote intern for me, and I still like gave them a little money, even if it was like $50 or $100 for the day.
Mhm.
It just, I think there's definitely a learning curve in any career when you need to like get your feet wet and really get experience. But at the same time, it's like your time is still your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I think I would tell myself to make photographer friends as well earlier, which is kind of dumb because I came from that in England anyway. I had that there, but for some reason it didn't click with me that I needed that as soon as I got here. So doing that as soon as you can, I think, is very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's a good
Community.
point. That's a great point. I think I wish that I had like gotten to know my photography and design community a little bit sooner than I did, because
Yeah.
would have been surrounded with like-minded people
Yeah.
earlier on.
The support counts for a lot.
So much, yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. I think I would probably tell my younger self to what would it be? Probably to find like what client I want to work with and just market to them. Because when I started trying to market to like all these different types of photography, when I started really honing in on spaces, that was when things shifted for my business.
I think somebody asked a really valuable question too about like, how do you transition from
yes, from real
smaller
estate
business to like bigger business?
Oh yeah.
From what is like, that what the question was?
Let me take a look. It was, they asked, how did you land your first major client? Is it that one that you're asking about?
Yeah, and I think it's just
and how to ease into larger commercial gigs.
Yeah, I guess I
got
for
you, Bethany.
Well, I was gonna say, I think I kind of answered that already, which is just to like get to know like who the bigger gigs are, the ones that have the producers, the advertising people behind them, the marketing firms, all that. And I think it's really, really good to pitch yourself to those people. It's not, I want to go work for Target, so I'm going to email Target blindly. It's like, find out who's doing the ad campaigns for Target, who's already shooting for Target, find out the producers who are working with Target, go to the designers that are, producing lines for Target, that kind of thing. But I mean, I guess it ties in with like, teaching yourself something earlier on, which is just, I think it's really important not to be afraid and just pitch yourself to as many people as possible. Like the sooner the better.
Yeah. Especially the ladies, we're so timid. We're so scared to kind of pitch ourselves and get out there.
I don't think still haven't done that, You
should do it. Pitch yourself. Get out
Your
there.
work is so good, Marissa. You should be doing it. Yeah. And the same thing I have to say goes with finding an agency too. I mean, I was pitching my work, my like little like handmade, so embarrassing. My like little handmade promos. I was literally like gluing and like I was like printing out lab photos and then like gluing them together with like little, my own like promos that I was making before I actually had a budget to like really have them printed or made. And I would pitch them, to agencies just blindly. And I would just be asking like, hey, do you have feedback for me? Eventually I would like to be like such and such photographer that already exists on your roster. I admire their work. Like, what advice do you have? I think kind of crowdsourcing and getting feedback is so valuable because people, who already have experience doing what you are aiming to do, they could offer a lot, they could offer a wealth of information.
That's true.
You got a visitor?
Good point.
She's got a visitor.
Yeah.
My dog is he's wearing a jacket right now. It's just really cute.
Your dog's wearing a jacket? My dog's locked in the bedroom, so he won't bark at me.
Aww. Okay, so I think that's where we should wrap it up for today. We covered a lot of ground. We covered a whole lot more ground than I thought we would, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Do you want to each tell what your Instagram handle is and people can find you and see your work?
Oh, yeah.
Go for it.
Oh, it's Bethany, BETHANYNAUERT, with no dashes and no uppercases. Really easy.
Yep, I'm at Amy Bartlam, all the same. No underscores.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward. Marissa?
Yeah.
One extra thing. Mine is Marisa, Marisa, Vitale, Vitale, photo.
Oh, see, that's like mine. Natalia Robert photo.
Nice.
Okay.
Only because there was another Marisa Vitale.
What?
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
know.
robbed.
Yeah, had to come up with something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with us, ladies. It was a good conversation. I'm glad to have met you, Amy and Marissa. And
Me too.
yeah, loads of great info. I can't wait to share this with everyone and
Thanks for
put it up there.
joining.
We'll divide it up into a couple of videos so people can see the whole thing. But yeah, thanks for popping in and chiming in.